if we have the clips, I think we're pulling them for the Sportsman Channel show this afternoon. But Terry McAuliffe came out last night and said, "Yeah, I'm all for gun control," and basically said, and he didn't come out and say, "I want to do what they did in Colorado," but that's what McAuliffe would like to.
You could
to see
really
passed.
see the way he wanted to walk that tightrope, because you think, look at the Democrats who have won in Virginia: Mark Warner, Tim Kaine. I'm blanking on Jim Webb. All of them ran pretty explicitly as pro-gun. Right?
Yep.
I mean, Mark
Yep.
Warner, if he could tattoo his NRA endorsement across his forehead, he would have done that. He sponsored a NASCAR. He wanted the world to know he was not going to take away anybody's guns. And he was, if I remember correctly, as a governor, he wasn't bad. He hasn't been too bad as a senator, if I remember correctly, right?
Or is he with the exception of Manchin, Schumer, Toomey, I think.
But he kind of recognized that would jeopardize his prospects in the state of Virginia. McAuliffe, allegedly back when he was DNC chair in 2001, quietly was telling other Democrats that the party had to back away from gun control. Now, this came out in an article many years later, so I think, if he wants to say, look, I'm a Second Amendment supporter, I tried to get my party to stop, well, nobody hears about it. And also we can tell, looking at the party today, it's not like it was that effective. Now, was it? If the party is every bit as pro-gun control as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So McAuliffe has always been a little bit slippery on this, but last night he basically was saying, look, I'm pro-gun. I believe in the Second Amendment. I hunt. I own a gun. I was kind of surprised that he came out and said that he owned a gun. That might be the only thing.
Fairly recent.
Okay. Was it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Because in his autobiography, he talks about hunting with King Juan Carlos of Spain and several Hungarian European aristocracy and stuff like that. So look, when he's hunting, I'm picturing the grand viziers and them carrying him on like sultan on and all that kind of stuff. And sir, we will release the peasant. This is not your typical
peasant or pheasant.
Oh, one of both, actually.
They just catapult them out. I mean. King Juan Carlos, and that's just awful.
But so when Terry McAuliffe goes hunting, it's not quite like the way most Virginians are going hunting, hanging out with European royalty and such.
Right.
But he also said he wanted background checks and everything. He mentioned the gun show loophole, as if there was any evidence that gun shows were the source of guns used in crimes in Virginia.
Right.
Was it nationally? I know it's 2%. I don't think it's any different in any reason to think it's a significantly higher number in that.
No.
So it was basically soccer moms or pro gun control, soccer moms. Here's what you want to hear. Downstate, where I know I'm going to lose the vote, but I don't want to lose too badly. Here's what you want to hear, and I'm going to pretend that there's no contradiction in everything I just said. And that's the way he decided to handle it. We'll see if people are fooled. Cuccinelli did not hesitate to point out that he's now rated F, right?
McAuliffe?
Yeah.
Well, he's never held political office.
Okay.
I don't know that the NRA's grades have come out, but I mean, based on his statements, he's got to be. I mean, there are no votes to.
He's meeting with Bloomberg.
There are no votes to grade.
Okay, good point.
But there are statements to grade, which is that's what you have to go on when you don't have a campaign record. So I'm just looking, but I'm pretty sure that yes.
Because Cuccinelli it's something he had said created the impression that the NRA had already come out and made a call in this case. Look, I'm not surprised to see McAuliffe trying to play both sides of this issue. What I kind of think is that ultimately, because my whole section in the Morning Jolt newsletter this morning was I'm not really sure why Terry McAuliffe is running for governor. Because he's like I said, his whole career has been kind of on the periphery of government officials. He's never actually been elected to any office before. And for much of the mid-1990s, his job was to be Bill Clinton's buddy. He was a fundraiser for the 96 campaign, and he ran chief fundraiser for the 2000 convention out in Los Angeles. And it's always been, he was chief fundraiser for the DCCC. He's always been a party fundraiser guy. And then in 2001, he became party chairman, the Democratic National Committee. And he did that, but mostly he's known as Bill Clinton's buddy, who hangs around and golfs with him and does all that stuff. And unsurprisingly, people want to be friends with Terry McAuliffe, and they want to hang out with him, and they want to do business with him because they see him as an access point to getting access to the president and probably Hillary Clinton. that's what a lot of people look at that and say that's selling access. I'm sure it's never explicit. I'm sure it's never quid pro quo. It's just, friends of Terry are perceived to be friends of Bill. Clearly doesn't really care that much about policy. And I guess my thing is that, look, if you read through his autobiography, he doesn't have a lot of really intense policy views. He has very intense partisan views. This is a guy who is proudly a lifelong Democrat, loves his party, and by golly, he will fight for any Democrat anywhere, any place, any time, and he will fight Republicans anywhere, any place, any time. Look, parties need those types. There's nothing inherently wrong with being a strong partisan, right? However, you can't then turn around and say to the audience last night, I am going to be the voice of bipartisanship. I'll be the bipartisan leader Virginia needs. And the guy's whole life has been in Democratic Party politics. So anyway, that's Terry McAuliffe, Cam. That's and potentially our next governor. And
well, that's the thing.
You might have to move further south.
No, I'm not leaving.
Right.
But
actually, he's not even going to bother with your part of the state because he's really running to be governor of Northern Virginia.
Yeah, right. No, here's the thing, though. I think you're right in that the intensity. There's still a lot of Virginians who just aren't paying attention to this race. Normally Labor Day comes and goes, and that's when people's interests start picking up. Now, I will say this. Over the past couple of weeks, I have started to see, and this is just, all anecdotal evidence, but I've started to see more yard signs. A month ago, on my drive from the farm into D.C., I saw a grand total of one Terry McAuliffe sign and one Ken Cuccinelli sign in over 100 miles. I saw a lot of signs for like county supervisors and stuff like that. Over the past couple of weeks, I've now started to see the gubernatorial yard signs popping up. I won't say I've seen a lot. I remember, 2012, I remember driving through the Shenandoah Valley and coming up on a hill. And both sides of the road, all of the houses, had the Obama or Romney signs, and most of them out in the Shenandoah Valley were for Mitt Romney. But I haven't seen anywhere near that level of voter identification or candidate identification yet. And, that's what it takes. I mean, if this is going to be an election in Virginia where a lot of people are like, whatever, then voter turnout is going to be absolutely crucial, just like we saw in the Colorado recall elections.
At this point, I actually would predict very low turnout. Not very low, but I'd say low by historical standards. Just kind of enhancing what you were saying about yards, because it's been an interesting measuring stick, that it's not... You see a lot of yard signs. It doesn't necessarily mean your guy is going to win.
Right.
But you kind of is a measuring stick to say, I want the world to know I am behind this candidate. In my neighborhood of Yuppie Acres in Alexandria, which is the code name, it's not actually called that. Driving around, you could mistake it for that. I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen a single yard sign for either one of these guys. Now, this is a neighborhood that probably votes about 2-to-1 Democrat to Republican.
Right. I saw my very first McAuliffe bumper sticker yesterday.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen much else driving around Alexandria. Maybe I'll look more around Old Town today, because this traditionally is a big Democrat, stronghold.
It is.
And my suspicion is that if instead of yard signs, they had something that said, I really hate Ken Cuccinelli, or I really hate Terry McAuliffe.
Right.
You see a lot more of those signs, because I think each party's base isn't really in love with their guy. I'd say in the case of Republicans, it's a matter of charisma and a sense of a lack of stirring passion on the part of Cuccinelli.
Well, and there was also the divide in the GOP about was it going to be Bill Bolling, was it going to be Ken Cuccinelli? I mean, I don't know.
Bolling,
see, I'm not involved in the politics side, so I don't know if there's any bad blood if Republicans haven't shaken hands and said, all right, we got an election here in less than 6 weeks.
One of Bolling's consultants came out and endorsed McAuliffe a while back, and McAuliffe keeps emphasizing he's got this unprecedented Republican support. It's a bunch of mayors and this consultant.
And every one of those Republican mayors, I think, belongs to Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which again, should be pointed out. Like, Terry McAuliffe is running with the help and backing of a lot of people who really don't like the fact. Look, Bloomberg hates Virginia gun laws.
Yeah.
Bloomberg hates Virginia. We've talked about this on the program before. Bloomberg has met with Terry McAuliffe. Bloomberg loves Terry McAuliffe. Bloomberg would like to see Terry McAuliffe be
keep in mind,
the Prince of South Bloombergia.
Governors of Virginia are term limited to 1 term.
Right.
The moment you're sworn into office, you're a lame duck. So it's not like if Terry McAuliffe goes in and suddenly starts banging the drum for gun control and pushing through stuff that lots of gun owners of Virginia don't like. It's not like they can vote against him 4 years down the road. Right. So it's you get one shot to do this, and so it would not surprise me to see Terry McAuliffe turn out to be way to the left of how he's campaigning.
Absolutely.
Now, of this, it is worth noting, bowling, so they didn't have a primary for the Republicans this year, and I and a whole bunch of other folks think that was not a good idea. Before they settled their nominees at a convention. This is how E.W. Jackson ended up being the lieutenant governor's candidate. It would, Cuccinelli certainly didn't mind selecting the nominee at a convention. It became very clear that, Bill Bowling, the lieutenant governor for the past 8 years, is not going to, wasn't going to be the nominee. Bowling dropped out. By the way, I mentioned that term limit before, but it's only on governors. You can be lieutenant governor as long as you like. So it's kind of this very strange. Bill Bowling has been lieutenant governor for 8 years. And he was going into this gubernatorial campaign with very low name recognition, and I think he was getting something like 15, maybe 20% of the vote, and Cuccinelli, as state attorney general, was getting about 50% or slightly above 50%. So had there been a primary, I'm pretty sure Ken Cuccinelli would have won. And I think the argument would say that he won fair and square, that he didn't, they had a primary, he got more votes than the other guy. Bill Bowling should get on board. Bill Bowling has said that he's going to stay neutral. There are a lot of folks who are not so certain that he's going to stay neutral all the way to the end. They kind of suspect that, towards the end, he'll announce that he's backing McAuliffe and try to get some sort of cabinet position in, a McAuliffe administration. It is not a there is a rift within the state Republican Party, and what's kind of frustrating is the folks who are not on board with Cuccinelli have kind of said, well, you know what? They're saying I'm taking my bat and my ball and I'm going home because my guy didn't win, which is not a good like after a primary or after you select your nominee, you're supposed to unite behind him.
Right.
And then the second thing is the idea of I'm going to go out and help the other guy because the other side because my guy didn't win, which it's a formula for a dysfunctional party. If you can't, you're always going to lose if the losing faction within the primary always says, well, that's fine. I'm only in this if my guy wins. If my guy doesn't win, to heck with all you guys.
Exactly.
I mean, if you and this, particularly if you think of yourself as as right of center, as a conservative, how you think the state is better off with Terry McAuliffe is beyond me. But
Well,
what do I know, right, Cam?
Exactly. It's not like you write anything called